Do you ever feel like you made all the right choices and you're still not where you thought you'd be? Like you hit all the milestones, you check the boxes, you get to work, and somehow the dream doesn't necessarily feel the way you thought it would. Emil wrote a book called Life After Ambition. And when I saw the title, I was genuinely shocked. Like, are we even allowed to be saying that out loud? Because for us millennials, ambition was the thing, the gold star, social proof. And I need to understand, what do you mean by that? Hi, Emil. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you. I
Me
devoured
too.
your book in 24 hours. I don't remember the
Wow.
last time I read a book that fast. So thank you. Thank you for being here. I think that you've been saying a lot of the things that many of us have been thinking for a long time, especially when it comes to ambition and motherhood, but also ambition in general. You know, what growing up, what did ambition look like for you?
I think growing up for me, ambition was like very much about survival. It was like a thing that I could hold on to that would get me out of um, my situation, get me out of poverty, get me to a different and better life. And so I looked at it as um, almost like a mantra that I adopted, like be ambitious, focus on work, and that is what is going to save you. And I think I internalized that in a big way. And even in my 20s and up to my 30s, I would say, I really believed in that. I believed that if you work really hard, then everything else in your life really doesn't matter because work is the thing that is going to ultimately um, save you. And I think a lot of women believe that that more than relationships, more than familyhood or anything else, like work as identity was not just something to be valued and admired, but it was like a necessary part of your identity as a feminist. And so, yeah, I think I really looked to ambition as something that was necessary.
Well, it's interesting because when you talk about feminism, I think that when I read the title of your book, it kind of scared me. I was like, wait, are we even allowed to like say that? Am I
Yeah.
allowed to be feminist and say that I'm not ambitious, you know? And I feel like in a way there's this idea that, feminism has brought up, like, which equal like ambitious to success. And like, you're part of the clan because you're working and you're doing all these things. And basically denying that that brings you happiness in a weird way is kind of like going against what we thought like feminism was. What was that process like for you? Because I know that I personally still kind of like struggle with that whole thing because I was raised by a feminist, so I don't know where my where I'm sitting in the conversation still.
Yeah, me too. My mother was a hardcore feminist. Like she worked in domestic violence shelters. She, that we had we had these like moon calendars where we would track our cycles. Like it was all about equality and the fight for social justice, and that was very much underscored by a feminist perspective in my household. My mother was really dogmatic about those principles. And so, and I think that was especially true for her because she was denied the ability and right to work. She was told that she wasn't allowed to participate in that process. So of course, for her raising 3 daughters, it was all about ensuring that they saw work as their birthright, like that they were absolutely allowed to work and they were absolutely encouraged and supported to pursue a career that was meant to be the priority over what was the encouraged priority for women of her generation and of her upbringing, which was marriage and children. And she never wanted us to feel uh, boxed in by that, and never wanted us to feel like uh, our only choice in life was to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that's how I grew up. That's what I grew up thinking, is that like uh, I should not desire those things above my desire for work. And so when I started to feel like I didn't want, or not that I didn't want, but that I no longer felt that I had that same passion and zeal for work, and that I did not desire to do work and care at the same time, or to give both of those things 100% of my energy at the same time. uh, I really felt like even voicing that was going against my feminist ideals and my upbringing, and that it was actually a betrayal of those things. And I hear that a lot when I'm talking to other ambitious women, other women who grew up with those same feminist principles in their childhood. And I think it's really difficult. And I think we're so afraid of being now put in the same box as like the trad wife movement or anything like that. And I actually think this whole conversation is a reaction to the lie that you should and can do it all, that you can do 100% of those things and give 100% to those things at the same time.
Yeah. If you're working, you're not with your kid. If you're with your kid, you're not working. Like
Yeah,
this literally set up us for failure, all of us, which is
exactly.
insane. But I also feel like this idea of like femininity kind of like equaling success to kind of like our reason to be, you know, in a weird way, it's kind of like avoiding the fact that it's not telling us that the system was rigged to begin with. So it like kind of goes around it in a roundabout way that makes us feeling guilty, as
Exactly.
opposed to like blaming the system for the way we feel.
Exactly. It really, the answer to, okay, women are not allowed to participate in the workforce, then became uh, that rather than have the choice where you want to put your energy or how you want to put your energy, or rather than change the system to be more inclusive and supportive of what it means for women to participate in the workforce, they were like, put all the onus on us. And then so we've internalized those failures, exactly as you said, rather than changing the system and seeing the system as being a failure. It's us that are the failures. And I talk about that in the book too. It's like I assumed that every time I didn't succeed, every time I didn't get the job, every time I wasn't able to take care of my kid and work at the same time, that it's because I wasn't good enough. Um, and that's just so false. That's not true. It's just that no one can do this. No one can do it because it's not possible. And I think we're just now starting to admit that it's not possible. And so I think we're finally starting to realize that we all agree that that's the case. And it's like, that's when change happens, I think.
Well, it's also interesting because when these conversations happen, most of the time they happen around motherhood, because it's a lot easier to digest the conversation about the motherhood lens of like, okay, you want less because now you have kids. I
Mm-hmm.
have plenty of friends that don't have kids that are burnt out and are not getting the satisfaction that they thought they would be getting from the ambition dream and this whole girl boss era that we come from as millennials. What was that feeling like for you? Like, was there a specific moment when it finally hit you? Like, wait, maybe this is not enough, or this is not what I thought it would be?
I think even just every time pre-kids, because I've been feeling like this for a long time, but every time I wouldn't get the job, or every time I got the job that I thought was going to bring me happiness. Like every time I got the promotion or I went to a new company and I was like, okay, now this is going to be the answer to my problems because they seem to really care and they value me and they see, all of the things that I bring to this company, or this company is different. It's like a family, like, every time that happened and I still wasn't getting paid properly. I still wasn't valued. Um, my time still wasn't valued. And that I still didn't have that feeling of accomplishment or, you know, that feeling like I'm succeeding. I was like, what is it? Like, what is wrong? Is it me? And for a long time, I thought it was me and that I just wasn't good at working. I just thought I was like, something was wrong with me. Um, but it was really when I was pregnant with my first child and I was at this company that on the outside, you know, was very progressive and sort of espoused all these values to the world, but internally, it was exactly as toxic as everywhere else. And I was pregnant. I was getting ready to go on maternity leave and I was looking up some stats on like women who are my age. I was 35 at the time. Who what happens to their career and like what's it like to come back and I saw this statistic that said like women's peak earning years are essentially from like 34 to 44 or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, this is the most money I'll ever make in my life. Like, are you joking me right now? I'm so underpaid. It's insane. Even though I'm doing the same thing as like these men at my job who are getting paid almost twice as much as me, but we're doing, if not me, doing more than them. And then I was imagining that being the cap of how much money I could make. And now I'm going to return as a mom. So I'm already going to be viewed differently because they're going to think, oh, she can't take that on because she's got a baby. Or if I want to leave early, or if I have to go because he's sick and I have to pick him up. But like, they're just going to see me differently and I'm going to have to work differently. And what's that going to mean for how much I get paid or if I ever get promoted? And that panic, I think, was like, the domino that started the whole thing because I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, I really don't think that this is tenable at all. And I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. Like, I was terrified, and that was a moment where I should have felt so excited, and I was getting to finally do the thing that I'd always wanted to do. Like, not always, but I was struggling with infertility for so long that finally being pregnant, I should have been really celebrating that moment. But instead, I was terrified that everything else that I'd been building towards in my career was now going to disappear because I was finally getting to have a baby. And it just was like, but I was told I could have everything. And now I was starting to feel like maybe I would have nothing.
Do you think they were confusing this idea of like ambition with like self-worth as a generation?
I think for sure. I was talking about this on another podcast about like how much of our, especially as women and especially of this generation, how much of our self-worth and identity is wrapped up in our careers, and how much, when we go to a party and we get to tell people what we do for a living, and that being like the thing that we lead with, because our idea of ourself is wrapped up in what we do and how good we are at it, and everything else just takes a back seat. Like, and I said, and we all agreed that that was true for us, even though we knew that that's not how we should be judged or how we should judge ourselves, and yet we couldn't help but feel like if we didn't have our ambition, we didn't have our careers, then who are we and what are we, and are we still the people that we thought we were?
Well, I feel like it's also in a way like a systemic problem as well, because I have been in rooms where I I never stopped working since I had kids, but I've slowed down from eras where I was just, doing like the fashion week rounds and like all these things. And people just think I fell from earth, like that I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm not doing anything because I'm not like necessarily sharing as much of that in social media. And when I would be telling people, because I was so excited about being a mom, because like it didn't come easy for me either. So for me, it was an accomplishment. They would be like, oh, like just kind of look at me and smile and be like, okay, you're one of those, and I feel like because the element has been so politicized right now, as far as like, this trad wives versus like career moms, it's like, okay, well, especially in the US, right? If you
Hmm.
are if you're a Democrat, you need to be a career woman. And like if you're
Hmm.
a Republican, you should want to have like 20 kids.
Hmm.
And if you're like somewhere in the middle, like where am I? you
Yeah, where
know
are you? Exactly. Who are you?
what am I? Like, what, like, am I even kind of to your point of what you were just saying right now, right? Am I even a person now? And
Hmm.
what is my value as a person, and what value am I bringing to society if I'm not working, or if I'm not like reaching for this dream? Which I don't know. Like, I wonder what you feel right now, especially with AI and, and everything changing at a very rapid pace. Do you feel that it's kind of like proof that you were right all along and it was all a trap?
I mean, I certainly think, given like the attitudes of Gen Z and even Gen Alpha, like towards work, that they really vocalize that, like, work is not your family. Work should just be something that you do to make money, and then you clock out, and then you don't think about it when you go home. That work should not be your identity, that you should not dream of labor. Like all of those amazing, wonderful things that these younger people are saying and thinking out loud, I think is such a sign that, like, yes, we are right, that our attitude about work and the things that we were kind of told to internalize are wrong, and that it's not us that needed to change, it's the system that needs to change. Even just thinking about the way that we talk about like career women versus trad wives, and like you either want to be a stay-at-home mom or you want to be a working woman that has to do everything at once, and one is sort of like less than, and one is burnt out and going insane. But it's like, why can't we have a system that recognizes that there are seasons in everyone's life, and that, maybe if you need to take a step back from working while you are taking care of like very young kids, that maybe you could job share with another parent, and you could do like 2 days a week and they do your 2.5 days a week, and you split the same job and you get to make a bit of money and still get to participate, but also get, volunteer at your kid's school, be there for pickup and drop off. And then once you are out of that season of like caring for very young kids, maybe you want to go back a little bit more, or maybe you want to go back full time, and recognizing that it's normal to have these periods of ebb and flow in a life. And that's true for women, and it's true for men. Like, give men the opportunity to stay home with their kids longer, but still continue to participate in the workforce. And the not recognizing that both of those things are equally important, that care and labor are not two separate things, I think would just go so far in including so many more people in the workforce, in the conversation. But instead we polarize people, and we say one is good and one is bad, and there, instead of like changing what's actually wrong, we're just fighting with each other about who's a better woman, who's a better feminist, who, like, who's a better mom.
Yep.
And I just think it's such a waste of time to be arguing with each other. We should be, fixing what's actually wrong.
Well, it's just easier to control people when they're fighting against each other, right? It's just
Exactly.
like it's a lot easier to divide everyone and just like play like good cop, bad cop, and then that way nothing ever changes. What do you think the role of social media plays right now in this idea of empowerment of women in the workforce, as far as like, as far as motherhood goes?
I mean, I have a very complicated relationship with social media. I'm sure you do too. I think like on the one hand, you can see that social media has given voice to uh, so many women, so many mothers to show the reality of motherhood, to show what life is really like postpartum, the difficulties of dealing with a colicky baby or difficulties breastfeeding, those first 6 weeks really look like, what it's like to deal with a toddler going through tantrums. Like, it's so wonderful to see all the many stages and faces of motherhood on social media, and I think that's been really empowering and beautiful. On the other hand, social media incentivizes that you follow the algorithm and not reality. So you are incentivized to show whatever is the most um, viral idea of what you're presenting, and so people are following that, and so you also get a very toxic presentation of motherhood. You get this like very false sense of what's really going on because you know the diaper company doesn't want you to tell the truth about what's really going on in your life. They want you to present a very specific image of motherhood because that's what sells diapers or whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
think women are feeling like they can't live up to now this idealized version of motherhood that's on social media, and so again they're feeling bad about themselves. Again, they're feeling like they can't see themselves in those images, and so therefore their voice is not heard, and therefore they're not included in that world. And it's very polarizing, again, like talking about having us fighting with each other. So I don't know if
Yeah.
I try not to even participate in it. Like, I try not to follow a lot of influencers. I try not to even get that stuff in my head so that I'm not constantly feeling like I'm less than. And yet, on the other hand, I do post. I post about my life as a mom. I sometimes post my kids. And then I wonder, am I doing the same thing? Like, am I putting out a false sense of who I am and what it's like to be a working mom? Um, so I
It's also
don't
a
I don't
complicated
really
dynamic
know.
because you're also a writer and you just published a book, and social media also plays a big role in promoting that book and in, like, you know what I mean, ensure that view, like that people get to see the book, and people, like, and that book has an impact in the world. So, you know, it's always like a pull and tug war. I don't know if that's the
Yeah.
proper way to say it in English, because you want to share because it's also the most important thing in your life, or it is one of the most important things in your life. But how
Yeah.
much do you share, and how much is it idealizing it, or just, you also tend to share when something good is happening, like
Yes.
for the most part,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would assume.
Yes. Exactly. And I think it is. It's like a lot of people find community in social media. A lot of people find their village online, and sharing and talking to these other moms that are going through the same thing as them, going through the same stages as them. So I see the good, a lot of the good. I also know what the bad feels like, and so it's such a tricky one because it's not going anywhere. So how do we make the best of what is there? And I don't know if I'm doing it properly, but I'm not sure really what the answer to it is, because I'm in the trap too. I'm in the bubble. That's how we met, and I feel like I
Yeah.
love following your life, and I love seeing your journey, and I love how vulnerable and open you are on Instagram. It makes me feel connected to you when I see that we've been going through the same thing, or, I can reach out to you and say,
Yeah.
I've been there. I also, I mean, I think it's so, not to speak so personally about your journey, but like, as someone who went through infertility, went through IVF multiple times, multiple rounds with every child, it's very difficult to find other people who relate to you, because there's a lot of judgment about doing IVF multiple times to have multiple kids. Like people want to say that you shouldn't have any kids because, like I've been
The
told,
opposite thing. Like, so let's not have any kids at all. Yeah, I know.
right? Like I've been told through the book, a man wrote like, well, doesn't she realize maybe God didn't want her to have any kids? And it's like, okay, well, yeah, I
Whoa.
never thought about that. Thank you. So to find other people who have gone through the same thing or are going through the same thing, I think like that's the beauty and best parts of social media is like it can really um, connect you to other people and make you feel less alone. But the bad side is that it can also make you feel incredibly lonely and isolated. And if you feel like someone's having this a perfect version of a working motherhood because they're only presenting the best parts and you feel like you're drowning and you can't do it all and why is this so easy for some people and so hard for you, that can be so detrimental to your mental health. And the truth of it is like we're all struggling, we're all finding it difficult to balance these things, but of course it's more thorny to share that those parts of it too. So I think
Because
it's
I feel
such
like
an
also people
interesting
have a lot to
conversation.
say. I feel like people always have a lot to say regardless, right? I had people even when I was sharing the IVF journey, it's like, well, it's very self-serving. And I was like, well, I wasn't seen in that way, right? For me, I thought I wasn't seeing that many stories. And I thought I would have wanted to see stories when I was going through it. So I want to put that out there for someone to kind of feel less lonely.
Yeah,
But I feel like right now the whole social media world, we need to be thinking about how everyone is meant to be feeling at all times with every state we're making. And at the end of the day, you can only speak from you lived an experience, and I can only speak from mine. So, to have to like apologize every time for something, to your point about many kids, you should be happy that you had two. Yes, I'm happy I have two. I still want a third. Like,
exactly.
why do
Exactly.
I need to apologize? There's people that cannot even have one. That's horrible. I feel
Yeah.
so bad.
Yeah.
But my pain is not any less because that person
Exactly.
is undergoing other pain. And I feel like that whole dynamic of social media, it's kind of like what's ruining it, because we constantly have to apologize for our needs and wants, not only as mothers, but like as people in general. And it's just
Yeah.
creating so much like toxicity through the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
motherhood in particular is um, really vilified and judged, and the spotlight on mothers online is like I think 10 times stronger than anything else. Like everyone has an opinion on mothers, right? It's like you're a
yeah.
bad mom because you did this. These it just like it never ends, and I think mothers get it the worst in many ways.
Yeah, because it's like them if you do, them if you don't. Like I put, like someone wrote like a TikTok the other day, and it was like, "Oh, I love being a mom," and I was like, "Oh my god, I love that you're saying that because I feel the same way." And then it's like, "Well, it's not the same for everyone. There's people that they don't have money, and that's why it's harder." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like I realize what the world looks like. I also come from a third world country. Like I understand the world disparity. I understand that every family is different and every dynamic is different. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be able to like still share our story and where we come from. And there's value in that,
Yeah.
which I think is one of the reasons why I gravitated to your writing in general, because I feel like it's so honest to who you are, and you're not trying to please everyone by the way you're writing, which I think really like makes it stand out. And that's why probably my husband is like, I didn't even know you could read a real book, because I'm always like just doing audiobooks. um and I was like, you actually read that book? And I'm like, yeah. Because he like saw me the whole weekend, and I was like, I felt like I was talking to a friend, and my friend was just like telling me these stories. And I feel, to the point about social media, I felt that way through your social media as well. But when I was reading the book, I felt that I had permission to look at my life in a different way because you did. And I think that's what's so great about the work that you're creating with the book, but also through your essays on the cut as well.
I so appreciate that. And that was my honest hope for the book, was like not to be prescriptive and not to say like, oh, here's 10 steps to, finding your way out of them. It was more like this is what happened to me. These are my failures and my traumas. And this is how I have come out the other side feeling good about what I do, who I am, and how I live as a person in the world. And hopefully, just reading my story will allow you the space to think about your own life and the things that you value and your relationship to work and to motherhood and to self. And that I give you, that reading my story like you say, gives you permission to just question things, or to take steps, or even just to like look at your life with a different lens. And I kind of just wrote it for myself, like you say, like you put things out so that you might have seen it and felt less alone. Like that's what you want to give to other people by sharing your story. It's like I wrote it for myself so that a younger version of me might pick it up and go, okay, I can imagine something different for myself than what people have told me I am, or where I'm allowed to go and who I'm allowed to be.
It's interesting because you write at the beginning of the book that you used to write these letters to yourself, for when you're old, aka 18.
Yeah, exactly.
And like you could, by that time, you were obviously going to have it all together. And in a way, it was really beautiful because I feel like towards the end of the book, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's still writing those notes to herself, just in a public sphere, but like not much has changed, which I think
Yeah,
is so
that's so
special.
true. Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
What I like, I'm curious about this idea of like letting go of ambition when it portrayed like as identity. Like, is there anything that you feel like you grieve through that process? Is there anything that you still miss from who you used to be?
Yeah, for sure. I actually was just, I just spent the last 3 days working in an office, guest hosting on this radio show in a place that I have worked in the past, like when I was still climbing the ladder. And right now as a freelancer, I'm always alone. I'm in my home, and that's wonderful. But like, I don't I don't really feel like a person all the time, because I exist between drop off and pickup, and then once my kids are home, it's like that's all I am, is a mom. And being back in that space with these people, and I had so much fun, and I felt so alive, and I just got to dress up and feel really good about myself. And I came home today like really sad that I'm tearing up. I don't even know why, but I came home really sad. Like I miss that. I miss that version of myself that I thought I was still going to be, into my 30s and 40s. And I think walking away from that, it's still really hard. And I think I grieve it in many different ways all the time. And I'm still trying to figure out what comes next and where I go and who I am. But, I think it's not, I didn't close the book on that part of my life and walk away. I think it's like a new chapter for sure. But yeah, there's many times where I think, what if I had still played the game? I don't think I would have been happier. In fact, I know I wouldn't have been, but you get a glimpse sometimes and you think, oh, what if I had made different choices? But I've always wished I could be one of those people who are like, I have no regrets, and every decision I've ever made is perfect. It's like I have so many regrets.
I mean, same.
Right? But
Will forever, and I feel like it's part of growing too. I
yeah,
think you have mentioned before this idea of like the golden start of millennials, right? Like, because we're always trying to like strive for best, because if
yeah,
you're good enough, you're gonna get everything that you kind of like want. So it kind of goes with the same idea. It's like, well, but I want to be the best, and if being
yeah,
the best is this shiny version of myself, that's what I want, even though you're aware that when you wear that version, you were still not happy.
exactly. In fact, I was miserable, and I hated it so much. And but the difference, I think, And the reason I could do this work this past week and feel really excited and happy is because I've been showing up as myself. And I know that they brought me back and they hired me as this version, as
Version.
the most honest, vulnerable, truthful version of myself. And to be seen like that and then still be accepted, I think is like kind of all we want in that space, in any space, right? Like you want to know that you're not presenting a fictionalized version of yourself and that that's what's being accepted, because living up to that is impossible and you have to
Yeah.
constantly be working at it, and that part's exhausting. And I think the disparity, the gap between who you are and who you're pretending to be sometimes at work is what really kills us. And like I think moms get that part especially because we do pretend at work to not be moms, right? We're like, oh
Yeah.
no, don't worry about it. And really you're like, fuck, I'm not going to make pickup, or I'm not going to get to see the Christmas play now because I have to do this. And like, but you're like, no problem, I got it. And
It's fine. Yeah.
the pretending is what kills us. And I think that's why you see in particular so many moms, working moms, burning out, because it's like, how can we possibly like expend that much energy pretending and not be exhausted by it?
Well, I feel like it also, I think motherhood just brings it a level of clarity and like lack of bullshit tolerance, like nothing else. But I think that even before, when I think about like my life when I had it all, like, right, um, I was still showing up as a version of myself that was not real, constantly, because I thought that that's the version that people wanted to see of me,
Yeah.
in order to be successful. And it's funny because before I met my husband, I went to a healer and I was like, well, I'm dating all these assholes. It's awful. Like I'm meeting this same person over and over again. And he literally just told me, he's like, well, no one sees you. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're coming into this room as like this power bitch, like, and that's not who you actually are. Like so he's like, if you keep showing up to your life, with a fake version of who you are, there's no one, including yourself, is going to be able to fall in love with it, right? Because you're never going to be the thinnest, the most successful, the richest, and there's always going to be someone better than at something, the youngest, whatever that might be. And I think it was like such a pivotal time in my life because I never realized that I was pretending. I actually had come to believe that's actually who I was, and when I look at this idea of like what ambition is and like what you're saying now, being good enough. Well, being good enough has made you have like a recurring like guest appearing in a radio show. You were just in Vogue. You were just at the Atlantic. You have a really like big column on the cut. Like that is, I mean, by all means, that is very ambitious. That's what a lot of people will be like dreaming of, and it's when you finally were able to like let go of these ideas that you actually got what you wanted.
No, it's very funny. Like the irony or whatever of it is that like once I stopped participating in the same way in that process, and once I sort of like really stepped back and said, I'm only showing up if you can have me as 100% me and take it or leave it, is when I found suddenly the most success. And like, I have truly never been happier and felt more successful. And like, but that success, like my idea of success now is that I feel good about the work I'm doing, that I find meaning in it, and that I have, and that my boundaries are not violated, and that I don't work on the weekends. I don't work at a certain time. I won't look at my phone after a certain time. And my kids take priority. My sanity and my health take priority as well. Like that's another thing, is like I was always sacrificing myself for this idea of ambition that I had. Like I was like, I'll show up sick. I will never go to the doctor. I will never, I'll always say yes, even to my own detriment, because I'm so worried if I say no, that opportunity won't come around again. And even if it kills me and even if it makes me sick, I have to do it because people like me don't get those chances very often. And so now that I'm saying no more than I say yes, it's like, it's
Yeah.
just funny how that works.
Is there like when you're starting to work with someone, I mean, what does it actually look like? You send them, hey, by the way, this is the way it works. Like, these are my kind of like rules, or like how can you guarantee, that happening in the workspace, whatever that might look like for people? Is that something that you lead with, or is it like something that you tell them throughout, or?
I think it's more something that like I just it kind of happens as we're working together, or I certainly can tell. I think I can tell um, when someone isn't going to vibe with what I'm putting out there, and when I feel that it is an immediate no for me. Like if it's not feeling good from the get go, I'm like, no, I can't do this. But also these days, like most people know, I'm a mom. They know that I if my kids get sick, or if I have an appointment, or if I get the call from daycare, it's like I gotta go, and you just have to be respectful of the fact that like I'll show up and I'll do a great job, but I also have these other things in my life that are going to happen, and you have to be okay with that. It's not going to change how good the outcome is going to be. I'll be very clear, like, hey, I can only work until 1 because then I have to go home and pick up my kids, and then I can't work again until like 5 o'clock when my husband gets home. So, people are actually really understanding about that. And if they're not, it's like, okay, well, I think you should probably find someone else, because like I can't. What can I do? Like these people exist, and I have to take care of them. Whereas like your email can get answered like in a few hours. Like nothing's gonna happen if I don't answer you right away. I remember I was took on a contract when I was pregnant with my third. And I knew in the back of my head it was not going to be a good idea, but I was like, but I need the money and whatever. And I got up to it was in person, and I got up to go to the bathroom. And when I came back to my desk, there was a note from my manager that was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "Where am I? I went to the bathroom." And I'm like, "You can
Is
see
that okay?
me." He
Is that
could
okay?
literally see my desk. I was like, you sent, first of all, you sent me a note when you could have just hollered at me.
Yeah.
But you saw me. I got up and I went to the bathroom. I was gone for like 3 minutes, and I'm pregnant, dude. Like, and after that, I said no. I was like, no, 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 no. I got a note from my doctor to say I had to work the rest of this contract from home, and so I could pee whenever I wanted to. And I was just like, and I will never work there again. Like, no. So it's difficult because I still have to work and make money, but again, like the more I say no, I feel like the yeses are still there. The opportunities still exist, but it's really difficult, I think, for women in particular to feel like when you say no to something, that those opportunities will continue to come, right? Like there's a big fear of being replaced, of someone younger coming along, of someone who's more willing to say, work late, stay late. They don't have to go because their kids, got a
Yeah.
runny nose or whatever. But we have
Is
to
this whole
believe
idea
in
of
that.
like, Andrea, there's a million girls killing to have your job. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like waiting there.
Exactly.
You're like, wait, are they? Are they? Like,
Yeah. And they are, but guess what? She's really good at it, and she's going to get the job.
yeah. It's yeah, it's, I mean, I think like the movies and like all the things that definitely not helped us. Because it's kind of like what we end up like gravitating towards over and over again. They keep reinforcing these ideas. So I think that's why it's so interesting and so uplifting to see conversations like the one we're having right now, because when you started saying no, all these things started happening, right? So it leaves room for like change, and for us to kind of like have like some control in our lives, and like want things to like just be different, whatever that might look like for everyone, whether you're a mom or not,
Exactly.
just a woman living in this world right now. What does ambition look like to you now? Or what is ambition to you now?
I think the difference is for me, it's like it's not this striving to be recognized externally. I'm not seeking validation from other people. I'm not seeking promotions. I'm not seeking, another notch on the ladder. What I'm desirous of in my own career is to do work that satisfies um, my creative impulse, that brings meaning to my life, that makes me feel connected um, to my work and connected to the product and what I'm putting out. And the validation I'm seeking comes from within, and I think that that's the difference for me between my younger sense of ambition, which was very much um, focused on that external validation. My friends think I'm successful. My boss thinks I'm good enough. My partners are in awe of like all of the things that I do, um, and now it's really just about me and my sense of value and my sense of worth and my sense of identity. And it's not the top. It's not the top thing, because I also am ambitious in a, I'm still obviously looking to do good work, and I am hopeful that that work is recognized by other people and that they connect to it. So that still exists, and that's still like something I'm constantly navigating and working through. But I also really want my kids to see me and for their sense of ambition to be in some ways, in some healthy ways, shaped by my relationship to work as well. So I'm very aware of what I'm putting out to them and what they're seeing me do, and how my relationship to work is also affecting their relationship to work. So I'm I'm really conscious of that too when I am thinking about what I want and who I want to be in the world. So it's complicated. It is still very messy, but I think it's much healthier than it was before.
What would you tell someone that is just feeling like they're in this weird hamster wheel going nowhere right now?
Get off the hamster wheel. Get off of it. Like, really, I know, that means different things, I think, for everyone. Like, not everyone can go freelance. Not everyone is in an industry or in a job where they can just like take a break or go work for themselves. But I think even if you can just get off of it in terms of like your relationship to the job, like feeling like you are trapped in that cycle of like striving, working really hard, burning out, looking for validation, not getting it, feeling like you're going nowhere. Like that is also how much we participate in that, right? It's like you're giving that hamster wheel its energy. So
Yeah.
if you can
You're
stop
the one running.
running, yeah, just stop running for a minute, like see what happens when you accept that you're good enough as you are. Like just take a minute to stop running and see how that feels. Because I think that this idea of like uh, good enough, it's reflected in my parenting as well. It's like I can't always be running in the mom hamster wheel either. Sometimes I have to stop and just be like, you know what? If we spend the day all in the house in our pajamas all day, like that's good enough, and that's what I can handle, and that's my capacity, that's their capacity. That's I have to stop running sometimes, and I think it can be difficult to accept that what you have right now is good enough, and that you are good enough if you are just in one place without, you
Yep.
know, running.
Yep.
That's very difficult for us, I think, many times, but just stop running and see
It's
what that
interesting
feels
because
like.
when you're saying that, I recently was listening to a podcast, and because I'm going through the whole IVF thing and whatnot, I've been kind of like rethinking what happiness is and like what's going to bring me joy and all these different things. And I feel like there's so much like reinforcement that happiness is something that is external to you, that is something that you achieve and that you
Yeah.
just get, right? And it's obviously like said over and over again, if you buy this, if you have this, if you have the plane, if you have the apartment, if you have the car, if you have the thing, then you'll be happy, right? And it's this constant search for more, and it ends up being so debilitating because at the end of the day, kind of like to your point, like you are good enough, what you have is enough
Yeah.
to be happy right now. And if you need something external, to add to your like that is going to bring extra joy, wonderful. But if you need that to be happy now, that is a problem. And it kind of like brings this idea of like happiness, it doesn't really feel like it could even be lasting, because it's
Hmm.
always dependent on things external to you, and then you have no control over them.
Exactly.
So yeah, thank you so much for being here and spending this morning. I know it's a crazy morning. We were just talking at the beginning about like Mercury in retrograde, and like I was
Yes.
so scared because my internet was not really working at the beginning. So I'm glad it worked out. Thank you for your book, everyone. Life After Ambition. It matches my house. It's a
Yeah, it looks
beautiful.
really good with your house. Yeah.
I know. I can't believe like this is the cover too, because I'm obsessed with her work. So
And
it
she's
felt
so
like the
good.
perfect combination. Everyone, please buy the book. I've told you on Substack. I'll like link everything. There you go. Life After Ambition. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate you having me.